In today's video, we are looking at an all-new straight talk phone in the form of the Samsung Galaxy Core Prime. This one is a 4G LTE phone, and coverage is provided by Verizon. So before you run out and buy this phone, make sure that it is, or that you do have Verizon LTE coverage in your area. The retail on this one is $129.99, and it can be purchased from either straighttalk.com or your local Walmart. Now the specs on this one are pretty respectable for a phone at this price range. You get a 4.5-inch screen, Android 4.4, which is KitKat, not the latest, but it is a fairly recent version. You get a 1.2 gig quad-core processor, 5 megapixel camera or main camera, and a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. Now, one of the highlights on this phone, and one of the things that I like about it, are the dimensions. Again, this is a 4.5-inch screen device, but the dimensions is what I would consider just right, or at least what my personal preference is. And one of the nice things about it is the fact that it is a very slim phone, and I'll go ahead and measure it for you so you can get an idea of the dimensions. The thickness on this one is 0.36, which is very slim for a phone at this price range. The height on this one is a little bit more than 5 inches, so we have 5.15, and the width is a little bit more than 2.5. Now, as I mentioned at the start, the screen is 4.5, so we have about 4.52 as advertised. Now, as far as the aesthetics on this phone, it's a very attractive phone. I like it. Definitely not something I'd be ashamed to carry. You do get this kind of aluminum look bezel going around the entire phone. The back is this like a dark slate gray. There's your camera, and it does have an LED flash, by the way. There's your front-facing camera there, and I will mention, which may be a little bit disappointing to some, I personally don't care, but that is the fact that these buttons are not backlit in any way. These two are the standard capacitive touch buttons, and then this middle one is a standard physical push button. But there's no LED lighting down here, so everything at night down here is blacked out. You're not going to see any lights there. The button there at the bottom does have a kind of like a chrome trim going around it. Now, on the layout, this is a very simple and basic phone, easy to use. On the left, you have the volume rocker. On the right hand side, you have your lock/power button. On the top left, you have your 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and then on the bottom center, you have your charge port. So now moving on to kind of like the Android type stuff and the interface on this phone. I'm very impressed by the responsiveness of it. This phone responds to the slightest of touches. As you can see, I'm barely kind of skimming the surface, and it's very responsive. That said, the screen is plastic. It's not Gorilla Glass, so there is a little bit of friction when you swipe. This one is not too bad. I've tested other phones that are plastic screen, kind of lower end phones, and you do feel that drag. This one is not too bad, but it is a little bit, there is a little bit more resistance than you would get if it were glass. Now, as far as the interface goes and all the Android stuff, everything on this phone is standard Android. There's no extras on this particular phone, so you don't get an FM radio, you don't get any little extras which you get on some of the other phones. Everything on this phone is standard Android fare. Now that said, some of these menus kind of have a Samsung twist to them. So for example, here's a settings menu, which looks very different from a standard Android 4.4 settings menu. And one of the things that Samsung has done on this particular phone, and that's kind of made all the menus very large and easy to use. So if that's one of your requirements for a phone, I think this one fits that bill perfectly. All the menus, again, are very easy to find and read, so you're not going to have a hard time reading these tiny little letters and icons. And as I mentioned, the phone is very responsive, so anything you touch on this thing, and it kind of snaps right to it without any hesitation whatsoever. So next we'll take a look at some of the standard stuff you might be interested in. So first we'll look at the kind of the texting interface. So here's a texting interface, here's a new text, and here's your standard Samsung keyboard. This phone does not come with swipe. I don't know if you can download it or not, so do keep that in mind. That said, I did find that this keyboard is very accurate. The letter that you type or the letter that you tap, that's the letter that gets selected. So I did find that the phone is very easy to type with. So that is one plus that I will give it. Next, we'll look at the phone dialer, and that's pretty standard Samsung fare. Again, if I can find it. Okay, there it is. So there's the nice and large icons for the numbers. Again, very easy to use. There's your contacts and all that kind of stuff. Nice and large, so you're not going to have a hard time finding stuff on this phone at all. And next we'll look at YouTube, which kind of brings me to another thing that I really like on this phone, and that's the fact that the display is nice and bright. It's very crisp. So this is going to be an excellent multimedia device, and of course with the 4G LTE, you're not going to have a hard time watching videos with this one at all. Now I have this one connected to Wi-Fi, so everything is kind of streaming seamlessly. So performance on Wi-Fi is very good, and you probably can't tell on this video, but it's excellent quality, or excellent video quality. Sound is so-so. The speaker is kind of small. It's not terrible. I've heard worse. So I would say the sound quality on this one is about average. So last we'll look at the Maps application. I'll kind of demonstrate kind of like the responsiveness of it. Again, this one responds to the slightest touches, zooms and rotations, and kind of swipe side to side are all very seamless. There is no hesitation whatsoever on this device. Thing we'll look at on this is the camera. I was fairly impressed with the camera. You do get some cool modes on here. Let's go back to that. So as you can see here, there's a mode icon, and you get about 5 or 6 different modes: beauty, face, panorama, best photo, continuous shot, and sport. So you get that, and the interface is very easy to see, very easy to understand. Here's your settings. Got various different settings on it, which are pretty comprehensive, and the image quality is very good. These images were taken in fairly low light, and as you can see, they're very clear. So I would say this camera on this particular phone is what I would say above average. Great pictures. So if you're into taking pictures, I would say this is a great little phone for that. So I think that about wraps this video up. I really like this phone. This is probably my favorite Samsung at this price range. They've had several others, but this one is by far the best one. Very responsive, very quick, excellent video quality. So overall, this is a great phone. Looks good, performs great, and the price, again, $129.99. And do keep in mind that you will need Verizon 4G LTE to use this phone.